Good evening. My name is Marcus Falcon, member of Group 5. We're going to be discussing valid points on how to conduct business in the country of China. But before we do that, we're going to give you an overview, okay, on basically the relationship of geopolitics when it comes to dealing with the country itself, with the culture itself, and the tradition itself that you have to remember if you ever land in Beijing or any spots in China, right? Let's look at the map of China real quick. How many people are there in the world that are of Chinese nationals? 1.2 billion. 1,200,000,000 Chinese. 75% of them live in a coast which is barely the size of California, Oregon, and Washington. The rest of them are scattered all over the western side of China, south, north, and east. You have to look at the map to understand why there seems to be a lot of doubt, skepticism among Chinese nationals when they're dealing with the outside world. And this includes conducting business with the outside world. You understand, on the south you got the Himalayas, western deserts, Mongolia, which is basically barren desert, and it's too cold up here in Manchuria. The only way they could extend is to the west. Why do we hear China so at this present stage that's always been highlighted in the news? Because this is the perfect time for them to stretch out in the business world, with the Western world. That's why there is so much control in trade, in business, and the monetary exchange, which my counterparts here are going to explain to you guys in a little bit. That brings up also a number of traditions that you may want to remember. First of all, there's no personal space when you go to the Orient. Not just Hong Kong, Japan, Korea, the Philippines, but mainly China. When you squeeze 1.1 billion people, remember 75% of the people that live in this coast, right? In such a tiny locale, personal space is not the essence. Not like in America when you come in there. Also, there seems to be a lot of doubts when they're dealing with outside interference. When I say outside interference, it means us, when we come in and do business in China. So they trust their family, they trust their friends, and they trust their business associates. Which means, when you go up there, you got to establish some form of rapport. So time to them is about, it's not about, okay, let's make a deal now and sign a contract. No, it doesn't work that way. You got to have that time. You got to have that build-up of relationship. And to them, it doesn't matter how long it takes. They know that. They know you don't have the time. So they're going to milk you for that. Right? So you got to be patient and persevering in this realm. Also, when I say something about family and friends, it's not what you know, it's who you know in China. So I am going to emphasize that because that is extremely important when you're dealing with business structure back in China. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn this over to my counterparts. They're going to talk about banking etiquettes. They're going to talk about money exchange. They're going to talk about what's the right way to actually dress up and to behave in different manners to conduct business in China.
Hi, my name is Ashley. I'm going to talk a little bit about some do's and don'ts for men and women conducting business in China. One of the things that's really different in China versus the United States is there are a lot of women that hold higher positions in many of the companies, and so you may encounter a lot of CEOs that are women and women that are just holding higher positions in the hierarchy within some of these businesses. The culture is really about building relationships, and so it would be customary to bring a gift for your host. And there is a difference here. If your host is a man, you're going to bring a gift for him, his wife, and his staff. If your host is a woman, though, on the other hand, you would just bring a gift for her and the staff, and you would not bring a gift for the husband. Another thing to note is that they, as Marcus said, they have differences in their personal space. And so when men are friendly or they're feeling very fondly towards their colleagues, they may come and touch you. And it would be okay for a man to touch a man, but it is not okay for a woman to touch a man or for a man to touch a woman. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about dress. So I thought I would start off with considerations on color. So some very good colors to wear in China are red, yellow, and gold. And as far as your dress, you're going to want to go with darker tones, more muted colors, and make some more traditional and conservative choices. Something that is really different there is white is not a very good color to wear. White for them symbolizes death, and the other thing to keep in mind is not to wear green hats, and make sure that you don't wear white socks. A few other general considerations would be: do not wear shorts. They're only worn during exercise. Many companies in China do not have casual days, so every day would be a day where you would wear your business attire. And you do not want to have open-toed shoes, and you would not wear jeans. So as for women and men, there are a few differences. For women, you do want to wear business suits. You want to apply a modest amount of makeup. So use small jewelry. Make sure that you have high-necked shirts and long sleeve shirts. And if you're going to wear a skirt, make sure it's knee length. One big don't for women is if you want to wear heels and you're tall, you probably would want to consider wearing flats, because if you are standing above your male counterpart, he may feel embarrassed or lose face, and that's very offensive in their culture. For men, you are going to wear business suits again. Always wear a tie, and make sure that you always keep your jacket on. If you take your jacket off, it's another offense. The other thing that is really important is for men, you are not permitted to wear jewelry, with the exception of maybe a wedding band. The other thing that you may consider wearing is a watch, but make sure that's a high-quality watch and not a replica. If you are caught wearing a replica, more than likely your Chinese counterpart will know that, and it would be very embarrassing for you and for him. That's it.
My name is Alexei, and I would like to talk to you about banquets and dinners in China while you're doing business. So entertaining guests and inviting people for dinners is one of the best ways to establish guanxi, which is that relationship, that trust. And when you get invited to the dinner, usually they start at about 5:30 to 6 o'clock in the evening. So be sure you're on time, and when you get there, you might be asked to remove your shoes. So don't be surprised, remove your shoes, and don't just sit down, wait until you're seated. When you're having a conversation, don't just jump in and talk about business. Follow the lead of your host. Also, be prepared that when they bring food, usually it's a lot of food. It's about 10 to 20 courses. So the best thing is to just sample each dish. Don't leave your plate empty. That shows disrespect to the host, because it shows that you're still hungry. And also, don't leave your plate untouched. That also shows disrespect. So just sample each dish. Also, don't stick your chopsticks vertically into the rice. That tells them it's bad luck. Slurping, making sounds, spitting bones is totally fine. Reaching in front of people, it's acceptable. So don't be afraid to do that. Also, when it comes to drinking, this is usually where all the negotiation happens. So be sure you're participating. Even if you don't drink alcohol, you can still drink water and juice, but show your participation. And when the fruit is brought, that means the banquet is coming to an end, and you should prepare to leave.
My name is Evangelina Carter, and I'll be talking about business transactions in China. And The main point that we want to focus on is the fact that if you are an American company who's waiting on funds from China because they're investing in your company, there's a lot of red tape, a lot of paperwork that needs to be filled out and get approved from the government in order for you to receive those funds. If the paperwork goes through and you do get approved, the banks, because they are approved, because they are owned by the government, you could still be waiting up to 12 months in order to actually receive those funds. These transactions tend to be anywhere in the amount of $50,000 and above. So if you're investing in that amount of money, you could be waiting up to 12 months to get that money here or get that money there. And it's not just transferring money from China out of there into the US, but also if you're an American citizen and trying to purchase something, it takes a couple days extra for the transaction to fully go through, because when you're transferring money to there, they want the money transferred from US dollars into UN. Certain transactions are no longer deemed legal. They're considered how to take money out of the country illegally, and so you want to be careful about how you go about getting money out of China, period.
All right, we're going to do a quick review. We have a few questions for you. So you're going to go out shopping with your Chinese colleagues, and you want to show your support for your Seahawks because you're from Seattle, and you have this awesome green hat. Would this be a good choice to wear? If you're thinking no, you would be correct. Wearing a green hat is a big no-no in China. Basically, if you wear a green hat, it means that your wife is cheating on you, and people will laugh at you and make fun of you. Next question. Oh, we can take that. All right, so if you were going to go to China and you wanted to close a deal, and you were estimating that it was going to take about 12 months to get the funds transferred, would you be correct? If you're thinking, yes, it's going to take me about 12 months to get my money, you would be right. So you're now at a banquet enjoying an awesome meal with your host, and you stick your chopsticks into your rice vertically. Did you make the right decision? If you're thinking no, you killed the deal. Or if you're thinking yes, right? If you're thinking yes, you killed the deal. Sticking your chopsticks vertically into the rice is a big no-no culturally. It symbolizes death and would be very offensive to your host. And our last question is doing business in China a relationship-intensive process? If you're thinking yes, you would be correct. So remember, in China, they have a lot of emphasis on guanxi and social networking and building relationships with your Chinese host and all of his colleagues. And that concludes our presentation.